You bought this property 12 years ago, but
Yeah.
when did Chosen actually become Chosen?
So we started the idea right after I retired, right? I think, me and 2 or 3 buddies were like, what do I want to do? And like, I really love wine. How can I do it? But then do it with like an ode to tradition, but like something that's fun, something that's new. And so it started, I would say 2019, 2020.
Okay.
Right during the pandemic, and then we were an online brand, and then it evolved. And after 3 years, we're like, dude, we need somewhere where people can touch point, like somewhere can come and hear the story. Right? We can't compete. Small people, and I want to tell people this: you can't compete when you're a small business with like the marketing budget of like someone at Gallo or Constellation
100%.
or Jackson Family. So for us, we got to invest in people.
Yeah.
And that's actually more my jam.
Is that where the idea for the collaborations came up with? Because I feel like I have not seen other wineries have the idea of collaboration so central to the concept. Normally it's like, oh, once in a while.
Yeah.
But for Chosen, that's like built into what you guys do.
Well, I think for us, it's like, how do I drink and how do I want to share? Like if you come to dinner with me, we're going to get some bubbles. We're going to get a white, depending on what we're eating. We're going to get probably a light red. And depending on what that bill looks like, we might give one more, right? Depending on the crew. I think for me, it's also about like that journey of going different places. Like I've only been to Walla Walla twice, but like I've seen all these places and been like, man, how do I go there more?
Yeah.
Like I want to go. I've been to Napa last 2 weekends ago. Like what is your mind blown? Like different parts of, Healdsburg, Sonoma, Paso Robles. Like I want to go to the Finger Lakes. So that journey I want to share. So people go, oh, I know what the wine tastes like. Sort of.
Yeah.
And I want to go there. Because for me, when I moved to Oregon, I never seen a vineyard.
Yeah.
So if I can taste it before I see it, then I'll go there with a different type of attitude.
So is the idea that Chosen can bring not just Oregon wines to you, but like wines from at least around the country? Like in a perfect world, 100%. Are you going to have a collaboration in the Finger Lakes?
Oh, dude,
yes. Is that in the works?
We're working on it. I think for us, it's number one, it's hard to get Finger Lakes Riesling.
Yeah.
So I am going to go to New York this month. And just do kind of crazy research. Somebody has to do it. So I got to try a bunch of different
pop those corks,
and things like that. And I'm just excited to meet new people and see new places, right? It's just like every time I go somewhere new, whether that's France or Italy or, who knows, like Arizona, I'm like, what's new? What's happening?
And like Texas and they're making wine.
Well, some of the stuff is really good. And so I'm like, how do I use my platform and Chosen's platform to not only talk about the wines, but the winemakers? Yeah. Because, winemakers are in that room by themselves, in the vineyard by themselves. How can I like show that like it's not just about me, it's about like the industry as a whole? How
do you see it? Because obviously you came from a very different world.
Oh, yeah.
NBA is like as opposite as you can get from like the people and the atmosphere to like being that solitary winemaker. And I think of you as someone who kind of like spans like bringing the world of what the solitary winemaker does to that like front facing crowd. But what was that transition like, and what are the parallels you see between basketball and winemaking? So
to be a really good basketball player, you have to reevaluate yourself reevaluate yourself every day. And I think as a winemaker, and as a basketball player, you can't go into the game being like, okay, I'm gonna score 50 tonight. You have to go into the game like what I want to happen, but I also want to win. So what I've noticed from the winemakers that in the time that I spent with them, the better ones allow the vineyard and the year to speak to them. And that's how they get the art and the juice. Right? Like they don't go in there like, this is what we do. We're going to oak it this much. We're going to hold it this much. We're going to pick at this date, no matter what. It's like, we're going to allow the vineyard to speak to us. And we're going to tell this story as true as possible. Like the less ego you have, the better the juice. Yeah. And that's what I've noticed. And like the other parallels is like, you need a team. Yeah. You cannot do this on your own or you're going to get burnt out. And thank God I have Taquette and Jordan and Brian and Nani that like help me to do what I do best while they do what they do best, and working with we have it's really complicated and hard to work with Napa Valley Cab, Sonoma Coast Pinot, Syrah from Walla Walla, like the Harvest Times. Like most people work with one vineyard. There's 3 bills a year. We're working with like 30 bills a year. Right?
Well, and that's a cool comparison. Like, if you're on the court, one person plays one position versus another another. And this is my forte because as in small business, I think we both know it's like there's certain things that you're good at and you enjoy, and there's certain things that you can do but feel like a drag. Totally. And if you don't find a way to hand those off to someone else who does thrive doing those, like the business is not going to do well. The brand is not going to do well.
No, and for us, it's been pretty wild adjusting from like a completely online brand to now more obviously membership based and getting people to like hear us and see us and feel us instead of like, oh, we're doing this cool thing here and very sporadic. Now we're consistently, good Lord, Topher, leave it alone. What a spoiled furball.
I'm used to cats, so I love having a dog once in a while.
Oh man. And then industry, we're just constantly just trying to tell our story.
Yeah.
Right? I think we want to be part of the museum.
And what is the story that Chosen wants to tell? Like in the context of the world of wine, which for me can often feel pretentious or hard to, like a club you're not a part of.
Totally. We want to feel, and this is a funny joke, as now I'm telling everyone, it's like, well, I think it's funny, is we want to be Whole Foods, right? We want to be Whole Foods. Everyone could go into Whole Foods.
Yeah.
Whether you want to go get a $1.50 slice of pizza or you want to go get the $7 coconut water. Mm-hmm. But it's an elevated experience. Yeah. Things are nice. You feel like, oh, this is not, an Aldi.
Yeah.
But this is not also an Erewhon.
Yeah.
This is like the quality is across the board great. Things are done with intention.
Yeah.
But again, there's quality stuff in there, but there's also stuff that's affordable.
Yeah.
That you can get, but the quality is there.
Yeah.
And when you walk into a Whole Foods, I can trust.
It's consistent.
Extremely consistent. You can trust the brand. So for us, we don't want to be pretentious, but we also don't want to be scrubby.
Yeah.
We don't want to be a gas station wine. The winemakers, we get an opportunity to work with amazing winemakers. Yeah. And we don't do right by them, but we also don't want to be scary and be like, come in our place and wear a suit and tie. Yeah. I try to tell people all the time, man, I've opened up my house to Chosen and to our members. I want you to enjoy your hour-and-a-half vacation. Life is hard, right? I got 4 kids, an hour-and-a-half vacation, 90 minutes. Me and the wife get a bottle, play some cards, 90 minutes up, got to go back to being parents, got to be back to doing Ubers. So for us, a day like this is not even that nice, but being able to watch the river, being able to be away from the hustle and bustle and enjoy the wines and to feel like your time is appreciated. Yeah. It's huge for me and huge for us and our team.
Well, and I think wine is like one of those things where it's like you ask people like, what does money mean to you? Or what does food mean to you? Or what wine for me is connection. And it can also be a way to escape or a way to restore. Totally. It can be an outlet to travel, to everything you just said, or you could associate like, oh, it's scary and it's pretentious. Yeah. And I love the brands like this that are emphasizing like, no, it's a way to come together with your chosen family, with the people you love, to like take a break and like refill for a little bit. For sure.
Dude, we have to. I think I know COVID was like 4 years ago. Like the big
feels like it was 2 months ago.
Exactly. But it's just like that empathy. It's like, hey man, let's go down to Chosen and what do you feel like? Do you feel like Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, Rosé, Syrah, Cabernet, right? What do you feel like? We have that. We have that quality. And come get a bottle. And just, when it's nice outside, smoke a cigar and just chill out, like relax. Like the stress of the world is a lot. And so for us to be able to share our story with you and the quality of it and the story of it is such a gift for us to share. Yeah. Right? It's hard to share, but it's a gift, right? When you do it right, you feel great.
You just made me realize, and I want to taste the wines after this, but do you think that's why wine has gotten so popular in the NBA? Does it have to do with like just taking a moment to like escape the stress of what is a very intense career? Yeah. I'm just fascinated by how popular wine, and I know people say like, oh, Popovich started it with the Spurs and like,
well, he made it okay because the way he talks about wine from people that have been on the team is not aggressive. He grew up in it, so he de-weaponizes it. Yeah. And so all of a sudden guys are like, wait, I can go to dinner, have a great bottle of wine with my food, and then go to sleep and still perform. Yeah. So that's one thing, right? Yeah. There's only so much nice wine you can drink. Yeah. and big boys in NBA can drink a bunch, but they're not drinking like that. Yeah. And then number two, it's a sense of like selflessness because I'm like, ooh, I know that you like Bordeaux's. Here's my knowledge of, let me look at this list. Yeah. Let me get you this.
It's a way to like take care of your team. And
but it's also like a beginning of a story, right? So I tell this all the time. When I was younger and I go to like business meetings or business dinners, the execs would order wine and I'm ordering a Jack and Coke, right? Because I'm younger. And I'd be like, this doesn't seem right? I'm like, not. And I'm like, damn, I love this wine. I'm like moving my Jack and Coke, or, my whiskey and Coke over to the side. And as I got older, I realized that bottle of wine was a connector. Yeah. Right? It's like, I don't know much about you, but let's talk about this. Yeah. Have you been to Italy? Have you been to Piemonte? Like, have you been to South Africa? No, oh, I did. Oh, you went to the Olympics? Oh, I know somebody who went. Like,
Yeah.
again,
It's
all of a
way
sudden
to
the
connect.
conversation
Yep.
gets crazy because you're like, man, what? I went there. You know this guy? Oh, we're okay. And then you become best friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, it happens a lot.
I love that.
Yeah, dude. Same
Well, let's taste some of the wines.
Okay,
Tell
perfect.
us about some of the wines. What do we have here?
Well, what you have right now is our Lingua Franca Chardonnay. That's our collab. We did one of these. I think Thomas is
Thomas the best.
the best. It's disgusting how awesome of a person he is.
Even though he's French.
He's so French. He is so French. And you know what I love about him is that anytime Nicolas Batum or Rudy Gobert or Wemby does good, he loves basketball.
Yeah.
Maybe more than he loves wine. So we've really connected on that. He'll send me texts like, France, vive la France, you know, like Wemby, Rookie of the Year, all these things. And so for me, to be able to work with him, and he's, you know, born and raised in Burgundy,
Yep.
his attention to detail is wild. So when we did this, and obviously working with Lingua Franca's fruit is next level. We've had this for 3 or 4 years and just haven't really, I don't want to say marketed it crazy because we only had 75 cases.
What's the vintage on this?
2021.
2021. Okay.
So for us, we've been wanting to show people that like Chardonnay can age.
Yeah.
Great Chardonnay can age and how it's evolving. And so this year we've really kind of said, okay, now it's starting to come into its own.
Yeah.
Now you're starting to see why most people who are wine nerds say Eola Amity may have some of the best Chardonnay.
Yeah.
Right? Just because of that cooler climate.
Yep.
So this has been awesome to share. This is one of our collaborations. And then if you see the label, that is the barn at Lingua Franca. Obviously the gold stamp of approval. And then we don't try to hide where we get our wine.
Yeah.
That's one thing that we try not to do, is make sure that wherever that wine is made, we take a picture and go from there. Oh, that helps too.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think that I love from what I've tasted with of all the chosen wines that there's a lot of differentiation. Like it's not like you're trying to say, oh, we're going to get, you know, this Burgundy winemaker's Chardonnay and have it taste just like the Willamette Valley one we make and a Syrah from the Rocks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you're allowing those winemakers to put their unique stamp on them.
So what's fun is Thomas has to make Lingua Franca taste like Lingua Franca, right? With us, we blind taste together.
Cool.
So we get to go where our taste goes.
So you're very much involved.
Yeah,
in
hell
that.
yeah, man.
Awesome.
That's the best part.
Well, I didn't know. That's awesome.
No, that's my favorite part. It's like
Cool.
working and listening and seeing like, you know, every part from, okay, we're picking this plot early or going through 20 or 30 barrels. Like we have to do our Chardonnay blending with Jackson next week. And there's 24 things we have to pick. So we have to pick what's our white label, what's our black label, what's our reserve, what's the high elevation, what's the Kevin and Channing, like what's the, you know, all these things.
And do you know like what those should taste like kind of? Is there like something you're going for the white label versus the black label? Versus-
Yeah, so white label would be your, based on price, a broader stroke. Those are your introductory. Those are going to be less, super, simpler in taste, right? And whether this is right or wrong, I always think of Pinot Noir as red, brown, and green as flavors, right?
I like that.
So we try to, depending on the year, we'll taste them all and say, okay, what is a broad stroke of what happened? Like a big picture of what happened that year. Was it hot? Was it cold? Was it warm? Was it wet? You know, what is that? And then quality is always going to be there. So that's the white label. The black label, squeeze it in a little bit more. So now the complexity, instead of 3 big flavors, you might get 6 to 9. Where you're like, ooh, I might lay this down 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
Where it's still going to continue to evolve. Not that our white label isn't, but it's more just
pop it now.
Pop it now. And then once we get to the single vineyard stuff, we're really trying to hone in on like what is the best version of what we're tasting.
Yeah, this place.
Place. And that is, it's so much fun. It is like mind blowing what you think you might like. And then when you're working with like 2 winemakers, 3 winemakers, and Taquette, myself, we're all sitting at a table and everyone's opinion is the same. It makes it fun because the winemaker's like, oh, I didn't think you guys would like that. We're like, yeah, we do like the, you know.
It has personality.
Amphora.
It's unique.
Right.
Yeah.
So he's like, yeah, this is my amphora. We're like, ooh, what happens if we blend this? Does it add age? Does it add tannins?
Yeah.
Like what happens? Excuse me. And so it has been awesome working with them in a sense of like, we get to create something uniquely us, but in ode to what they are.
Yeah.
You know, Nike makes dunks, but then they do collabs with people.
Yeah.
And those collabs are like, we love this frame, but our colorway is us. So that's what makes it fun. And it's I hope one day we'll have an opportunity to do it with like other people so that they can see the process. It's like, we don't go in there going, I'm going to make it super fruity this year.
Yeah.
No oak, no whole cluster. We're like, we blind everything and then we write down, 1, 3, 6. We think 6 is the main character, or somebody goes, 3 is the main character because when this sits in a barrel for another 6 months or in a bottle, it's going to evolve to this. And then in a year, it's going to taste like this. And so I'm learning, and it's been awesome being a little rookie in the wine.
That's
4-year rookie.
That sounds like you're a little more than rookie.
Yeah, yeah, I know, and I'm getting myself pumped up, but it's really what I wanted to do, so that each bottle we had our fingerprints on it. So it wasn't like, make whatever.
Just like source that out and send us. Yeah.
Hell no.
Yeah.
Hell no. I hate. What's the point of doing that?
Yeah.
I can go buy bottles.
Do, you know?
I know, but we want to do right by our customers.
Yeah.
Like people's hard-earned money is to me extremely respected, and like I want that. I don't want to lie to you.
Yeah.
I don't have enough brain cells to lie. My memory's already losing. Going away day by day. So I don't want to lie to you about how this process is or what's going on. I just want to tell you my truth and our truth, and like continue to have you enjoy it.
Well, it helps that everything is delicious.
Oh, thank you.
It'd be one thing if it was like,
the
ethos is great and the wine's okay. Like the wine is really, really good.
Thank you.
And even with this, like I love that you're holding it back a little bit, because at least having a restaurant, I love being able to pour people things that have developed a little bit of, because wine tastes very different when it's straight out of, it's very fruity. You get a lot of those like bright, fruity, citrusy notes, but then you let it sit for a minute and you get those like mushroomy, umami, like it still has richness, but it has lemon.
And that still has this has another 5 to 10 years on it.
Absolutely.
Before, and I'm just like, wow, that it still has big acidity.
Yeah.
I always liken, again, basketball player, certain wines are like high school kids, right? Mm-hmm. Now, certain kids mature in high school, and they're going to be 6'2". They peak, which is fine. You peaked in high school, which is great. You won a championship. Yeah. Then there's wines that are like, you ain't really hitting your stride till you're 40. Right? You go through this weird time.
It's like Tim Duncan bottles.
Right, exactly. Yeah. It's like sometimes you go to college for 4 years and all of a sudden you're like, dude, who is this dude?
Yeah.
You go from the swan to the geese, right? The geese to the swan?
Yeah. Maybe? Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, maybe. Okay, yeah. The ugly duckling to the swan. There we go.
Frog to the prince. Yeah.
There we go. Something like that. And so but that journey, you want to be on that journey.
Yeah.
Right? And I have kids, right? So it's obviously like watching my kids mature, and they have these awkward stages. Wine sometimes has an awkward stage, right? Where you're like, I probably should have held that, but I'm glad I drank it. You leave it out for a little bit. Then you're like, okay, I see. I need to go get another bottle. Maybe I'll drink it in a year, 3 years. That's what's fun. That's to me what's fun about wine, especially all these. Like these are my babies. And so I'm like, man, that's kind of hitting right now. Or, the Lingua Franca, the 21 is really, really good. What's the 22 Longolo or the 21 Longolo? Like, how is that? Like, how is that evolving? So it's been great.
Well, and I think that's where like when you're starting to learn about wine and like, I'm really enjoying wines from this region, or I'm really into Gamay. What is this grape about? And so you start buying and you start, maybe you don't have a massive collection, but you start putting some bottles away, and it becomes this whole interactive, like food. Of course, there's big foodie culture, but food is so immediate.
Oh yeah.
And wine is something that can become a through line in your life, and it can steer vacations and friendships. And, and then when you do open a bottle that you bought 10 years ago, it's like revisiting a special memory.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, I was in this place with these people when this bottle came into my life. And now we're enjoying it.
Yeah. Dude.
Yeah.
Wine is a memory, as like a liquid memory.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought I saw a cat, but seeing things. No, it is like liquid memory, because I'm like, man, I remember when we blended this, or I remember we went to Walla Walla to look at Lake Helene Vineyard and go to the rocks, and why did we like it? So this
what is
our chosen label.
Okay.
So this is our black label. This is made by Jackson Holstein. We think Jackson is one of the best winemakers in the Valley. Young guy, second generation, the nicest. Again, regardless of how good your wine is, if you're an asshole, we're not even going to come to you. It just doesn't make sense, right? We want to work with people who we would actually like eat and drink. Yeah. Like, can I take Jackson to go get a Modelo and some tacos? Absolutely. That's my guy, right? He has been instrumental in us and our style and our flavor. And Jackson allows us to work through him and learn. And to me, that's immeasurable. To me, it is the greatest gift he can give. He doesn't know it, and he'll end up seeing it.
He doesn't just take your feedback and like go alone to a room and do it all.
No, heck no. Jackson is so informative of like, hey, it's a little hot this year. this is going to be a little ripe if we pick this week, or if we do this week, it'll taste a little bit. I think we can also, a lot of our wines, we never tell people, well, hold this for 5 years. Our cab, we do.
Yeah.
Our cab, right? We have Howell Mountain, Dodgers Ridge.
Yeah.
Like single vineyard. Oh, it's crazy.
It's like the best version of Napa, where it's not on the valley floor. It's not too hot.
Right. But this year was our first year was hot, and we picked it a little later.
Yeah.
But stylistically,
yeah,
that heat is going to go away after a few years, which is nice. But we, again, we have to hold it.
Yeah.
Like we're not going to like really pump it up until it's ready
which
to
is
be.
Great. Yeah.
Right. Or we got to double decant it. Anyways, nerding out. We get this primarily from 3 AVAs, Chehalem Mountain, Dundee Hills, and Eola Amity.
Okay.
So each year we blind taste, like I said, and we just kind of say, what is the main character? What is the focus of this painting?
And so for the black label, are you always saying we want more like a 60% red, 40% brown, and I don't know what the remainder is, 20% green?
Right.
Or is it like we just want the best, most interesting version?
We take, again, snapshots.
Yeah.
White label is like, oh, this is what the valley looks like. Reserve is like, hey, this is exactly what we are tasting the majority of. What's the main character?
From those places.
Exactly. Yeah. So like whenever you make a plate of food, there's a main character, whether that's a protein, whether that's a sauce, whether that's the carbs or the you could have a piece of fish, but then you have like black volcanic rice. That's the main character of the dish. So for us, we're figuring out what the main character is as a group, and it's awesome. And we get to learn, we get to practice, and we get to like really show our palette and vision for like what happened that year.
It's interesting. I tell people this I didn't realize I had developed this as an idea for pairing food and wine, but my dad was like a sketch artist when I was younger, and he taught me to draw perspective by looking at something. Like, we're drawing this river, you like kind of squint your eyes and you look at what's darkest and what's lightest. Yeah. Like, where does the light shine? What is most bright? And then what fades into the shadows? And I realized I kind of do that with food and wine. Like, you taste a dish and you're like, what is popping the most? Yeah. Even if there's a big piece of chicken, maybe it's the Calabrian chili that's on the chicken. Yeah. And then you do that the same thing with wine. You're like, okay, I know I have to match heat and a green note and like a kind of creaminess. So like, it's cool to hear that you're kind of doing a similar thing when it comes to tasting. Yeah,
we don't go in there with an ego. Yeah. We don't go in there like, this is what we think is going to happen. And I could sniff this all day. If I had like a car air freshener that was this.
Well, and like you said, you get all that really pretty red fruit. Yeah. That smells
got a little dirt on there, which is great. Like good dirt. Yeah. Which is nice. It's not 21s were a lot more red. Yeah. This is, I think, 60 red, 40 brown. Yeah. Right? But again, as this ages, you might get 60 brown, 20 red, a little more green.
And then there's that little undertone of, I'm sure there's some whole cluster in here, like a little bit of green note in there.
We tried to stay away from that, but now our palates are like, now people kind of understand our brand. Yeah. Now we can go, you just can't jump on somebody with whole cluster. You gotta
and it helps it age, especially if you're gonna like help it develop. Yeah. Whole cluster gives you a little more tannin, a little more structure, which helps it age longer, especially if wow.
I mean, Jackson is a man. Good Lord, have mercy. I want people to trust me and that we're doing the work. And trust our team that we're doing the work and we're learning and we're working with the right people. So it's not like, hey, let me slap Channing Frye's name on a bottle. It's like, we're really vineyard contracts, the vineyard, when we pick, price per ton, how much tonnage per acre. Yeah. Like, we try to stay,
and you're in the cellar tasting the wine. Yeah.
A lot of wine, which is the best part.
So. I love that this as a reserve wine, I find so much in the Willamette Valley and in other areas, often the reserve bottle has a ton of oak on it. And like, people seem to think like more oak means more expensive. Yeah. And often I would rather drink the like entry level Willamette one that's a little bit lighter on its feet. Totally. But in this case, this is light. I mean, it's a serious wine, but you can keep drinking it. It's complex. Like, it has depth.
The oak should frame the fruit. The oak should be, you can have a great picture. And if you don't have the right kind of frame, it's not going to look right. Yeah. So for us, we're like, how do we use the oak to protect that fruit? And to give it longevity in life. And the last one we have, really which beautiful. Is my brother's favorite, and a lot of people's favorite, is our Walla Walla Syrah. We do this in collaboration with Hazelfern. Dude, we went in there and we're like, oh, y'all make, there's some sneaky places that make great
Is Syrah. This from the Rocks District?
Or just next year is the Rocks.
Okay,
this year's Walla Walla? More Lake Killeen. It gives it texture where the Rocks lacks acidity.
Because it's hot.
Lake Killeen gives this like that big purple fruit.
Yeah.
And I try to tell people, this is not the right way to say it, but like if you like Pinot and you like Cabernet, this is a baby.
Yeah.
Washington Syrah is like a baby between Cabernet and Pinot Noir. You're going to get fruit, but you're also going to get big, like you're going to get fruity notes, but you're also going to get kind of like big tannins at times, but also it'll settle down. You could chill this. If you have grilled meat, like our family loves gyros,
take on such savory
loves,
notes.
you know, like just all types of like Middle East food.
Yeah.
Is crazy with this. Oh, it's next level.
Well, Syrah always naturally has so much pepper.
Damn.
Like even this is why you wear black.
Yep.
Even when it's young, but then when it ages, I don't know how long
Never
you've.
said
This is the you know, you're in the winery, you
my
spit
wife's
on the
like,
floor, yeah. But often Syrah when it ages can taste like bacon or smoked meat.
Yeah, got a little bacon fat in there. Yeah, we really like that. But yeah. See that little bacon fat in there. But like it's not, we didn't want to jump on people's necks for like this super hot, high alcohol Syrah.
So
this is 13.5. No.
Wow.
Yeah. So imagine a Pinot Noir maker making Syrah is going to restrain it a little bit and allow it to grow. So,
which is more in that like Northern Rhone style, you know?
Totally. Yes. So people don't know. I had an Hermitage yesterday at 2013 and my cousin and best friend were like, what is this? I said, yep, you're hooked now.
Yeah.
You're hooked.
Yeah.
It's just so amazing. So for us, again, it's like, what do you want in your box? What do you feel like drinking? What are you eating? And for us, we want to show you that we have high quality wines that are, yeah.
Well, like the tannin is there, but some, especially New World Syrah, can just like totally take the enamel off your teeth.
Oh,
you know, and this is like
dragon fire.
Yeah.
Like,
and this is restrained. Like
very.
It has the spice, it has the fruit. It has tannin, like for the people that like big structured red wines, this will totally hit the spot.
Totally.
But a Pinot drinker would love this too.
Easily.
You know?
And this is 2020, so it already has like, 4 years on it. Think about another 4. All those tannins are still going to kind of be there, but not as, initially there was kind of rough. You're like, let me hold this.
Yeah.
Or let me like open it up. Once it opens up and kind of chills out, it's a whole different beast.
I want like grilled lamb chops with that.
Grill marks on food and that fire and wine is ridiculous. Like Chardonnay with like grilled veggies is wild. How it brings it out. And I think more people need to try that. It's like, even our rosé, it's Chardonnay rosé. So people are like, well, I don't like Chardonnay. Yeah, you do. You just haven't had good ones. Yeah, you do. Don't say that. Right. And that heat with the wines makes such a huge difference. Right. It like brings the best version out of it.
Yep. Well, I think heat brings out flavor.
Yeah.
And, wine is so great on its own, but then when you put it with food, you're like, the food tasted like one thing, the wine tasted like another, but then they bring out more in each other. And I think that's, again, part of the journey of enjoying wine. And you go to the Northern Rhone and you try those wines with that food and you're like, oh my God,
I get it. And everywhere across the world, you're like, wait a second, what do you mean? We don't have to just drink Pinot Noir and salmon. That's ridiculous.
I know.
This is blasphemous, but I like bigger Pinot Noirs with pepperoni pizza.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, right? A good pepperoni pizza. I like, again, Syrah with like Lebanese food.
Yeah.
I like sushi and Riesling is
It's
crazy.
the best. It's the best.
Crazy. Bubbles and popcorn.
Yep.
Crazy. So like these
I think you said Chardonnay and catfish and that's
dude. Catfish is so good, right? Like I'm in Atlanta all the time.
Yeah.
And when I'm in the hotel,
Cajun spices.
Dude, it just brings out the best. It's exciting to be like, what kind of food can I pair with what kind of wine? Different areas.
Like, I had Thai food last night with Beaujolais, because like fresh herbs and spices. And I think it
stands up to it. Right,
and people are like, oh, I have to have a Chardonnay with like a chicken Alfredo or something, and you're like, boring.
No, so boring. Or if you're going to do that, go get an Italian white.
Yes.
That's low on acidity, but that's bigger and has a little brioche
to it. Or something,
Yeah, so I'm still learning about Italian whites, and I'm more of an acidity guy.
Yeah.
But I'm
go to Friuli.
I'm messing with Italian whites now. Listen, it's hitting your boy because I said, "Oh Lord, this is delicious. This is crazy." Hey, it's so many. It's 2,000.
It's so many. Well, I could again keep talking to you for hours, but I probably have to go to the restaurant. Serve people wine.
Oh, dude, yeah. I got to go get my kids tacos.
Thank you so much for hosting us.
Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, this was a blast.